Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. At the end of last week, we got the official announcement from Cartoon Network that Adventure Time Fionna and Cake has been picked up for a second season. We don't have any further details beyond that. We have no idea when this is going to come out, no idea what the premise is going to be about, although we can infer that from based on how Fionna and Cake ended. And I actually made a video a little while ago going into what the Adventure Time franchise could cover next in any future shows, and I'll leave a card above to that video. But nevertheless, now we have the official announcement that the next iteration, the next step in the Adventure Time franchise is a second season of Fionna and Cake, and I'm mixed on this, to be honest with you. If you guys have watched my videos discussing Fionna and Cake, you'll know that I absolutely loved this series. I thought it was phenomenal, and I couldn't wait to see what new Adventure Time content would come after this. In those videos, I said to you guys, I really didn't think that Fionna and Cake needed to have a second season. Yes, there were plot points that were left kind of up in the air following the end of Fionna and Cake, little spoilers ahead. But for example, who's the big boss that's in charge of all this multiverse stuff? The boss of the Scarab, the boss of Prismo. We get a little bit of a teaser to that, but they never really answer that question. What about the fact that at the end of Fionna and Cake, there's characters from other universes that are now living in Fionna and Cake's world? Isn't that against the laws? Isn't that against the multiversal code? Those are things that I think they'll probably dive into in this second season, but in my opinion, I don't think they really needed a second season of this show to dive into those themes and to dive into those questions that we have. I feel like they could have done another series in the Adventure Time world that covers some of those questions that we have, and I honestly don't even think they need to answer these questions right away. I feel like there are much bigger questions revolving around the Adventure Time world that people are curious about that don't have to do with Fionna and Cake. Like, for example, the big question right now that I think every single Adventure Time fan has on their mind is, how did Jake die? What happened to him? What was his cause of death? And we don't have that answer, and I discussed before that we're probably not going to get that answer anytime soon, because Adam Muto, who's the producer of this series and Distant Lands as well, he said in interviews before that he doesn't want to touch on that topic because it's going to be sad, and he wants to try to do more positive themes in these shows and have it be more positive than negative. So that's something we're probably not going to touch on in season 2. But nevertheless, part of the reason why I was a little bit trepidatious about them announcing a second season is because I felt like the first season was so good that my fear is that it didn't end in a way that necessarily needed them to continue the show. And I've said this before with other properties, and even we could use Adventure Time as an example too in this. Sometimes when a property ends or a show ends and it was meant to have like a finite ending and that was it, which I think was probably the thought process going into Fionna and Cake, that hey, we're not going to get a second season, so let's wrap up everything in this first season. When that happens and then all of a sudden they decide to make more content because of the success of the show, you run into the potential issue of the quality of that show going down because it was never meant to get more. This is the reason why Gravity Falls ended when it did on Disney. Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, always had a one season story in mind, but then the success of the first season ended up making him go back and flesh out the rest of the story in a second season. Because if you guys didn't know, with Gravity Falls, apparently the season 1 finale was originally meant to be the end of the show, which I think would have been a horrible end to the series because there's a lot of questions after that finale. But nevertheless, after the second season ended and they answered all of those questions and they wrapped up the series, that was it. And I remember at the time I was shocked to see that Gravity Falls was ending because I thought, wow, this is like Disney's big series. How could they end it after only 2 seasons? And the reason why was because that was the story. He told the story he wanted to tell, and that was it. The danger we run into with Fionna and Cake getting a second season is they told the story they wanted to tell in the first season. Now we're going to get a second season, and hopefully it remains at that same level of quality that the first season had. And again, I could be completely wrong. I love the first season of the show, and the second season could be just as good, if not better. But in my opinion, I don't think they needed to make a second season. I think that some of the questions we have could have been fleshed out in another series following different characters and whatnot. But nevertheless, this is what we're getting. And one other thing I want to say before we sign off is part of the reason I have this, trepidation or fear in my mind regarding this show is because I think that Adventure Time in general, and I've said this before, but I think it was kind of a victim of this in the original series. series, like, I loved Adventure Time when it first came out. I thought it was better than regular show because the two of them are very much so, you know, they were the two big things at the time. They were the two big Cartoon Network series. And I made a video discussing this a while ago comparing the two series, but when Adventure Time first came out, I thought it was amazing. But then as the show went on and kept making more and more episodes and more seasons, it got to a point, in my opinion, where the quality of the show started to go down. And at a given point, I was actually contemplating to stop watching Adventure Time because I really wasn't enjoying it anymore. And when it ended, I was happy that the series was over. Then on the flip side of that, when you look at regular show, I thought regular show was a good show when it first came out, but I thought Adventure Time was better. But as regular show went on, I felt like it kept getting better and better and better the more seasons and the more episodes that we got of that series. So the danger becomes, as Adventure Time in my mind had this issue in the past, I just don't want them to run into that again, especially with Fiona and Cake, because the first series was so good in my mind that I don't want the second season to ruin that, if that makes sense. The last example I'll bring up with you guys is with Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. That's a series that was meant to have a 2-season run, but because of the success of that show, they were actually developing a third season and then got the plug pulled on it and we never got to see it. In my opinion, I think it's a good thing that the third season never got made because they covered the story they wanted to cover in the first 2 seasons of the show. And if they want to make a spin-off or a sequel to Mystery Incorporated, then fine, do that. But you don't want to ruin a show by just not knowing when to end it, if that makes sense. That's kind of what's happened with SpongeBob through the years. That series was supposed to end after season 4 when the movie came out, but then Nickelodeon wouldn't let the creator end the series, and now we're on what, season 12, 13, 14, whatever they're up to now. And if you watch SpongeBob today versus SpongeBob of yesteryear, it's a night and day difference quality wise on the series. But anyways, hopefully we don't run into that issue with Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. I could be completely wrong. My fears could be completely not justified, but we'll have to wait and see. And I hope that it remains at the same high level of quality that the first season had, because like I said, I really loved Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all of this. Are you guys excited to see that Adventure Time Fiona and Cake is getting a second season, or are you a little bit concerned about it like I am? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.